This next pattern is a very, very important one. So this pattern is actually one of the reasons that I was so excited about Zanzibar the first time when I read about it. And this is the ability to define recursive permissions. So to be able to have permissions that don't have to change types uh, in between the various steps of the computation. So if you'll remember, when we did our data model, I cleaned up the document folder drive model that we used in the last segment. And in this model, we have a document belongs to exactly a folder belongs to exactly a drive. So the depth of our hierarchy here is limited to depth 3. But what really happens in more common scenarios is that folders can belong to other folders. Right. So the parent of a folder, to formalize that, parent of a folder can be another folder. So that one little line that I just added has been the cause of so much heartache in permission systems in the past. So when we used to build a product called Quay, we ran into this problem where we wanted namespaces to belong to other namespaces and groups to belong to other groups. And we wanted to have the permissions able to be federated at any level in that hierarchy and to take into account rolling up all of the permissions all the way up and down the hierarchy. So the reason this was a challenge for us is because we actually use SQL statements to do our permissioning. So we would join through the hierarchy to find out which users were attached at any layer in the hierarchy. And at the time, we were built on top of MySQL, which didn't have any support for recursive queries or recursive CTEs. So the ability to join the folder table with itself, you would have to basically unroll the entire hierarchy, the entire nesting, in order to be able to write a SQL query for that. So you would say this supports up to depth 3 or up to depth 4, and then we would join with the folder table itself 3, 0, 1, 2, or 3 times for depths 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively. But in a relationship-based access control system like SpiceDB and like Zanzibar, you can actually just natively express this. So switching over to our playground, what this looks like is all we have to say is that our folder can now have a parent of type folder as well. But one other thing that's changed here is that now for the view permission, we don't just want to take into account our parent's owner relations. We want to take into account anyone who can view that parent. So what we'll do is we'll add a permission called view on the drive, and we'll just define that as the owner. So now we've got a common API between folder and drive that we call view. And now we can say anyone who can view my parent can also view me. So what we've done is we've given, we talked about in the fundamentals video about how permissions sort of create the externally facing API. And that's what we've done here too. We've given both drive and both folder a common API. And we call this duck typing. So duck typing is the ability to treat either of these two types similarly as we recurse the hierarchy. So now what's going to happen is as we're computing who can view a document, we're going to go directly to that document's parent, which is always a folder. And in fact, that's not even true because in systems like Google Drive, a document can belong to the root of the drive without even being in a folder. So now we're going to go to the parent of this document, which is either a folder or a drive. And we're going to say who can view that. If it's a folder, we're going to go to that folder and compute it this way, potentially going into parent folders of that folder. But if we're going directly to a drive, then we'll just say who can view that, and that's directly the owner. And that's it. That's how we do it. And we can test this model. We can write a few relationships. So we can say document the doc has a parent of folder ABC or folder ABC. And then we can say that folder ABC has a parent of DEF. And then we can say folder DEF has a parent of drive, my drive. And now we can go ahead and we can hang people off of these. So we can say that drive, my drive. My name's Jake, so I'll just give it to myself as an owner of Jake. And then we can say that folder DEF, we won't even put any permissions on ABC. So DEF has a reader of, I don't know, Jill. And then we'll give the document itself some kind of permission as well. So we'll say that the document owner is user Frank. And now what we can do is we can say the document, the doc. We can go and we can ask, who is allowed to view this thing? So we can see that Jake is allowed to view it because Jake is an owner of the containing drive. Jill is allowed to view it because Jill is a reader on the parent of the parent folder. And then Frank can view it because Frank is an owner of the document directly.